Welcome to Rebecca Sounds Reveille. You are going to be so jazzed about today's show because we have somebody who's going to teach you how to get what you want. She is an icon in the industry, multi-talented, quite sassy and spunky. I just love it. And you already know who she is because she has made herself known. I've got to tell you, if you don't, you will. She's an actress, a producer, a director, a writer, and a vocalist. We're going to talk so much about many of the things she does, but also as a musician, she is really known for so many different roles, but starring in The Hills Have Eyes, as well as Welcome Back, Kotter, and Cut. Those are just to name a few. I have some that are my favorites: Three's Company, Electra Woman, and Dinah Girl, but that's really dating me too. So moving along to more current things, we're going to hear a lot about what she's got going on. Absolutely multi-talented, multifaceted, gorgeous. She's performed everywhere from Broadway with Tennessee Williams to, oh my gosh, even the small screen opposite of John Travolta. And we're going to hear so much about it. Let's welcome her right now. Susan Lanier, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rebecca. Keep talking, keep talking.
I got to tell you, I mean, there's just so much that I want to share in it, and I just can't. Well, I'm trying to contain myself, but I don't want to blow the lid off because this is your story. This is your life, and you have really just shown people that if you want it, you can get it, and you don't have to stop. You can keep going, and then also, as you're doing that, explore so many other parts of yourself that flourish, and you're doing it. How did you get started in entertainment?
Oh my goodness. I feel like I've been intrigued with it since my earliest memories. I would watch Miss America on TV with my mother, who never missed it. My mother was a very pretty woman, and she loved the beauty contests back in the day. And on our old black and white TV or whatever we were watching, she would watch Miss America, and they would do talent stuff. And though I didn't get ever become tall enough to even think that way, you know, compromised in height. I mean, 5'3", so that's not tall enough to be a Miss America. But or even enter a beauty contest, I was intrigued with the talent part of those shows. And if they twirled, I would copy them. Even as a little kid, I would, pretend I had a baton and throw it up in the air, sing or dance or whatever. And then when I was about 13, I was walking through a park in Dallas, and they were having an audition for a play called Winnie the Littlest Witch. And I didn't even know what an audition actually was. So I went up and I said, "What's going on?" And they said, "We're having an audition for this play." And I went, "Well, I want to audition. I want to be in the play." And I auditioned, got the part of Winnie, won an award at the Parks and Recreation thing at the end of the year. And that sparked it. I joined a theater company called Theater 3 in Dallas with other school chums of mine, Morgan Fairchild and Bill Bickley, and we really learned the craft of acting and theater acting, particularly at Theater 3 in Dallas, Texas.
Theater 3, I love it. I bet that has stayed with you for so long, just back here in everything that you've done.
Well, one of the things they taught, which I find a lot of people haven't been blessed to have this background, is extreme discipline, and that we were taught very early on it wasn't easy. They would make us clean the toilets to be in the plays. They would make us clean the theater. You had to be on time. There were, a lot. They taught us a lot of discipline, not to break character and things like that.
Yes.
And I think it prepped me and Morgan for sure, and for how hard it is really, and how disciplined you have to be in Hollywood or New York, on stage.
That really does make a lot of sense because there are millions of people going to where the film industry is. So everybody went west to go to Hollywood to break into the business, and now people are doing Atlanta and in Texas, and I guess even Louisiana is starting to be something. But when you're competing and you've got to set yourself apart, I mean, you really have to know your craft and be able to stay so focused so that you can move beyond and it also accept direction.
Totally. I sometimes refer to this. I teach a little on-camera acting class on Zoom. I started that back up. I used to teach in the old days in LA. I had a huge class, and then I quit to do music and other things. And
Mhm.
I start during COVID. I thought, well, maybe I'll teach again. And I had a little group, and what I try to teach is, if you get directed in a scene, you don't question the director, our teacher. Um, they're right. You know, Particularly if you're not a huge name and you just want to work, you've got to follow direction. And I have some of the newer students don't realize that even if the direction is not what they agree with, you know, you have to follow it. An actor's job is to follow direction. A
Yes.
director's job is to direct actors. And the writer's job is to create the project. The actors really have to learn that they're kind of like third on the totem pole in terms of having to make creative choices.
Yes.
You have to take direction. Yeah.
Yes, and it's not about an egotistical like focus here because it's about what are we going to get in this frame that conveys what we need to do in this amount of time per the script. It's not about you or whether you didn't do it specifically to this in the overall scheme. It's what is it going to be that's going to get this to the next part. It's really interesting how this works, and it's really, let me ask you, from going to being on the one side and then actually teaching it, what do you think? I mean, like, that's got to be so inspiring.
I just started this young girl, an actress in San Francisco, who was working with the ACT. I was friends with her aunt, and we had lunch, and she called me out of the blue and said, "Would you consider teaching me privately?" And I said, "Yeah, I guess so." Didn't start teaching a class to be a teacher again, because
Uh-huh.
I do my passion projects even during COVID. And I found that I was really enjoying working with her on a one-on-one. And I said, would you be interested if a couple of other people stepped in and we worked as a group? Because I think to do scenes, it's good to be working with a partner.
Yes.
And she wanted to do that. And so I have it small, it's just once a week, and it's film technique, and I really teach things that I was never taught. And I studied with some of the greatest acting teachers in the world, and they could not have been better, like Uta Hagen, and
Mhm.
I worked with the Actors Studio and Lee Strasberg, and I knew Sanford Meisner. I worked with
Oh,
him,
wow.
and it's like, so I worked with the great ones, but
Yes.
nobody ever mentioned how to act on set. Matching your blocking and the master takes,
Mhm.
and a lot of film technique, that little tricks that work for camera. And so I figured, okay, I can set myself apart from the other teachers who just teach scene study, or the character's motivation or objective or whatever. That's, you can read about that in books, but actually getting up and doing it. So it's really a workout more than anything. It's a workout for on camera work, and that's what
So worked out. But that's good though, because doesn't that challenge you mentally also because of the different learning styles for the people that your clients that are coming to you?
Oh yeah, I mean, one of my students also works with some. I think it's the Royal Academy. She's working with a British teacher and me, and she works with a couple of people simultaneously. I think
Mhm.
every teacher has something to, if they're a good teacher, I think you can learn something from every teacher that does it. And I think when you get what they have to get, then you move on and work with someone else or whatever. I mean, I personally can stay with teachers for a long, long time.
Sure.
And also, I've been working with a teacher, a director in New York. I just got back from New York a few days ago, and I had a great time, and I was working with Lyle Kessler, who wrote the play Orphans. He heads up the directing and playwright division of the Actors Studio in New York. And so he has a group, and all through COVID, I was doing scenes as an actress to keep me from going nuts, and it was just fabulous. I just had a great time. So I went to New York, and he had moved the class to in person for the first time since COVID started. And
Wow.
I flew to New York and actually did a scene at the theater. So it was really great.
Well, how do you like, in comparison, compare and contrast between theater and film? Which do you think really resonates more? I mean, you've done so much work. So
Thank you. I like theater. I mean, I will never turn down a really good film role. I'm pinned for a role right now with Patricia Arquette. Oh, please God, I'd love to get it.
Love it, love it.
So I'm pinned right now for a role. I don't know if I'll get it or not. These it's always a crapshoot.
Sure.
But I love both mediums. But if you said, okay, you have to pick one, I love to be in front of an audience. I love to do my cabaret show. I have a one-woman cabaret show.
I love it.
So I did that for years here, integrating my music with comedy, stand-up comedy. In the day, I actually did most of my shows, particularly when I started off in Hollywood, were sitcoms and comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that to be one of my gifts, so to speak. I think comedy is harder to do than drama. And so I actually did stand-up professionally on Tony Orlando and Dawn's show and did a lot of sketches with George Carlin. So
Okay.
I'm actually groomed with some really great comedians. And so, I integrate comedy with the songs I write and do an hour and 20-minute show. And it had a really nice following here in Hollywood. I've done it in Florida. And I was asked to bring it to New York, so I'm going to do that.
This is absolutely exciting because, like you said, I think comedy really is a little bit more difficult because you have to really position everything that you say in a way that's going to be taken receptive and spot on when you deliver it. So that really is a lot of work. And I think it's neat how well balanced you are, and you can take those things and maneuver them in other areas that you're doing. I want to talk to you a little bit about your you as a vocalist and a musician. Can you share with us a little bit about that?
Yes, I started writing songs, in the shower when I was maybe 8. I don't know. I remember making up little ditties, and they were really stupid. If I get a crush on a guy, I like Mike, he's my type, or something really dumb. And so I remember just singing around the house all the time. And I don't consider myself a great vocalist. I am not an Adele. I am not a Bonnie Raitt. I am not Janis Joplin. But I enjoy music, and I enjoy singing, and I enjoy writing music, and songs will just come into my head, and I'm not a great keyboard player, but I'm good enough that I can go and sit down and work it out on the keyboard and then show it to my band and go, here, it's supposed to sound something like this. And then they take it and, put the finishing touches and make it into a real song, And so it's just something I do if I'm stressed out, or feeling anxious about something. I'll go to the keyboard and just play a little bit, and it sort of soothes my soul. So I have written many songs, and it really started to launch when I met my late husband, Delaney Bramlett, in 1977. He had seen
Uh-huh.
me Have Eyes. And so I went to a club where he was singing, and we met and fell in love. Um, and of course, he was every musician's musician. He was one of the greats. He's in the Hall of Fame, and he lived in the recording studio from the day we met until he passed away in 2008.
That's so
And
sad.
so we were always in the studio, and I would give him many of the lyrics. So we would co-write a lot of music together when we were together. And so so we had a breakup in the 80s, and I decided to form my own band. And with his help, we ended up being really good friends. Then we fell in love again and got married again. Anyway, it was a long story, one of those soulmate kind of
Yeah,
stories.
I was just going there.
But yeah, totally soulmate. But we created music together, and and so you can't go to school to learn the things he could teach. There's no school that can teach that. So I was very
No.
blessed
And
with.
all of that you had those dynamics, those unspoken dynamics between inspiration and creativity and the chemistry, and all of those were just, it was the right whirlwind to just blossom in so many different directions with what the two of that you were doing. And here now you're able to use a lot of that in so many other directions, even in like relieving stress and just being able to, and I think all of that's going to come back. I mean, the whole cycle and dynamics that you were talking about is pretty incredible, because when you have that love, even when there's kind of a hiccup there, you go back to that. It just doesn't go away. And all of that comes out as an extension through music, and people feel it.
Yeah, I mean, he was wonderful and a great teacher, and he was very supportive of anything I did artistically,
Mhm.
and was also a great critic and had a very good eye. So he liked to teach people. He liked to make them better, and so I was very blessed to have been married to him and to have learned from him.
This is pretty incredible throughout your journey in everything entertainment, all encompassing. You've really been able to get some fantastic direction, make fantastic connections, and it's done very, very well for you. But it's not those connections that did it, it's you. You're profound, and you are so skilled in so many different areas. And the perseverance has really made you shine. And so you have an album coming out.
I do. I have an EP coming out called Allergic to Texas. And
I love this.
well, it's a real song called Allergic to Texas because I was living in LA and my mom was still living alive, and she lived in Tyler. And so every time I would go to Tyler, I would get this incredible bronchial allergy. And so I went to her doctor a couple of times, and one the last trip that he goes, you know, you're just allergic to Texas.
Yes, I think a lot of people are going to be able to relate, because there's so many times they go visit family and there is a reaction. I know when I went to go visit my dad, he lived in this particular area, and that place had this kind of an odor to it. And I just kept saying, I don't really want to go over there. But he's not there anymore. He's here in Texas now. But yeah, it really, I think that's going to resonate with a lot of people.
Well, it's funny, you know. I write with a lot of humor, and then I have a lot of ballads, sad ballads too, because it's the ups and downs of life, right? So I try to combine, um, make the show interesting with ups and downs, and the music as well. So I try to, I just put out where I'm at the moment.
I think that this is going to not only resonate from just that one particular song that you have, but in a lot of respects, based on things that we were talking about earlier. And it's really going to hit home for a lot of people. And this is one thing that is going to be so inspirational among many about the things that you do is just in that alone when this comes out, and I know it's going to hit at the perfect time. And
I
those
think I'm
who are
dropping the EP next week. So, it's in time for the holidays. If somebody wants to pick it up for a Christmas gift or a holiday gift,
I think it's
bear
perfect.
that in mind.
Yes, I think that's perfect. I mean, simply it's going to help people, especially at the holiday time, because they're going to be able to relate, and then they know you from the, us talking today, this special time that we're sharing, and they're going to be able to see that throughout life and the things that they hear in your music are really going to be okay because they go in other directions too. It's going to be incredible. Let me ask you, what is your maybe the most favorite role that you've had in film?
Well, I'm going to have to say The Hills Have Eyes because
Uh-huh.
it had the most profound effect on my life than any of the other roles had. Because I actually star in that movie, and because the movie was released in 1977 and Delaney had seen it at a drive-in, and I met him the night after he saw it.
Oh, wow.
That's how we met, as he came up and said, I saw you in that movie last night, and what's your phone number? The rest is history. But that kind of shaped my path to a large degree. My agent didn't want me to do The Hills Have Eyes because it was a horror movie.
Okay.
And there was a stigma back in the 70s about doing horror. But I was sort of I felt like I had done so much sitcom and so many comedies prior to the sitcom. I'd done several years of being on the road doing dinner theater sitcom with
Okay.
people like Donald O'Connor and Pat Paulson and Ed Cookie Burns. And so I felt like I was I needed a change for myself, whether they wanted me to do a horror movie or not. I wanted to branch into films, and I was hoping that doing The Hills Have Eyes would help me recategorize myself from the girl let's call for the sitcom to to real films. And I did a couple of pilots after The Hills Have Eyes, and because Delaney and I were doing some music projects together, which I was really enjoying, I personally got off my own path in the acting, and I wanted something that to me was more fun to do. And the thrill was gone for some reason. I don't know why. I just had been an actor my whole life, and you have so little control when you are an actor at that in unless you are the executive producer or unless you can create your own projects. Now, back then, it was way too expensive. Now, it is very easy to create your own content and to
Mhm.
at least launch something through social media where you can get the attention of an audience and then take it and get somebody to back it, do a GoFundMe, do an Indiegogo or whatever they
Yes.
do, and get your thing launched and get a film produced for not too much money. You can go low budget if you have to try to get to the next level. A lot of the stars that are starring in movies today are their parents are movie stars, and
Mhm.
and the door just automatically opens, and they're already born into some of the biggest agencies in Hollywood. So
Yes.
I feel that that the opportunities are not as fair as they might have been when I first started off, and just hard work and theater. And, there's always been nepotism, but
Yes.
nothing like I see today.
That's
Nothing.
interesting. That's really interesting. And I've talked to a lot of ladies in film and over the years and what they've had to do to get where they're at. And yet there's still so much here in the world, that the climate that we're in, that just sort of, you feel like that mask should have been gone.
Well, like I said, there's always been nepotism and doors open for movie stars' children, but not the way that it is now. I mean, now it's just if you're, I won't throw out any examples just because I won't, but it's just easier if you're. Easier to star in a film if your mom is already a huge star, your father's already a big director, and so
Sure.
I'm not sure some of those people would have made it if they started off without a parent, that opened the
Skill
doors.
set wise.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And so there are a lot of things that are working against someone new in the business. However, um, because social media has opened up, there's so much need for content, and it's cheaper and easier to get content made now. It might even out the playing field a little bit.
Okay, that's interesting. That's really interesting, because there's so much that has been Hollywood or known in Hollywood, and then seeing what we're seeing now. It's really, it, it's very interesting to watch how this has, the playing ground has been kind of laid out. And I like what you're sharing as far as, well, all of it, but when it really focusing in on what you were talking about, where other people have opportunities that they may not have had because of being a content creator, being able to, on a lower scale, being able to actually write, direct, produce, be in, and then submit to Amazon Prime, Netflix, Hulu, and some of the online streaming mediums.
I have three new projects that I'm doing with a producer named Brooke um, Lewis Bellis. And Brooke is a kind of scream queen, really dear friend of mine, and we like to work together. And I'm a senior to her. I'm more mature than she is, but we end up doing these projects together, and some of them are low budget. And but she is a hustler, and she works 24 hours a day creating content. And we did a couple of COVID, uh, where we shot it in the house, projects. One called Red Rooms that I think that she's
Ooh.
shopping to one of the one of the Amazon whatever. I don't know where she's shopping it. That's not my job. I just acted in it. But we did a comedy before COVID started, the month before it started, called Stripped with Casper Van Dien, and then we have another project called Leave Quietly, and they were really fun, and it allowed us to continue to act during COVID when all the studios were shut down. So just like my EP, like in the old days, you had to have a label,
Yes.
you know, and you had to be signed, and that label had to put a lot of money behind you, and it was impossible to release your own project. Now you just put it up and do a little advertising, throw it on Facebook and TikTok and
It's true.
Instagram, Twitter, and you have control over, you may not get the sales a big, Warner Brothers Music would get for you, but you have you have more control over what you put out now.
I
And it makes, so, you know, you can go wait tables and still sell music,
Well, yeah, and back then you were really trying to have to break into something by by waiting on tables and things like that. I'm really jazzed about the things that you've got going right now, because you are an absolute incredible influencer on so many levels. And I would love the audience to follow everything that you're doing, because you are an inspiration. And anybody who says, I'm not so sure if I can do this. Just following the things that you do, just just in learning about the things that you've done already, incredible. That's going to be a game changer right there. But following everything that you're currently doing is an inspiration to want to make changes within. So I really want the audience to be able to connect with you. I want them to get a hold of your album as soon as it's released. Boom. And so do you want people connecting with you on social media or?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. I'm Susan Lanier, and I'm at and I'm also known as Suze Lanier-Bramlett, and I do a lot of music under Suze Lanier-Bramlett, and so I have Facebook pages under Susan Lanier and Suze Lanier-Bramlett, and then Instagram. If you type in either name, I'll come up. But I'm on Twitter and at Susan Lanier and Facebook and Instagram. And I don't know what name I'm using on TikTok because I don't do it very often. But I think I might become a little bit more engaged with TikTok.
I think that would be fun. Yeah, I think that would be fun. Maybe even doing some lives as you're with, just even some snippets of your album as soon as it releases on there. And I think that people are really going to resonate with that. So many ways, so many ways.
Yeah, I I've been focusing on writing a book, and so I've kind of slowed down on my social media chops, which I need to groom a little bit so that I can keep up with the changes because there's so many, everybody's doing, it changes by the day, that social media and what people want to see.
Yes.
So, but I am writing a memoir about living in New York in 1967. And it's very dark, and it's a new for me. I've written for TV before a little bit, but this is my first book, and so I'm getting such a thrill out of doing it. So please watch for that too when it's released.
Oh, this is going to be even better because we'll be able to really visualize a lot of the things that, as you know how we talk and you can kind of get bits and pieces in a conversation, but when you sit down and read a book and you want to go back a couple of sentences so you can really get that fluid visual inside your head going, this is gonna be pretty incredible.
Well, it's the memoir's not my whole life. I started thinking maybe I would do that because people were asking me, "You need to write a book," and I realized that if I enjoyed, this is 6 months of my life, just 6 months, and it, like I said, it's very dark, and then we'll see if I go to the next one. But
Love it.
there was too much to put in for a whole book.
I love it. And I love that there could be potentially even more. I happen to be a reader and I love to be able to understand things and connect in such a way that is a little bit different than vocal conversation because there's a lot when you actually can smell and hold and you get to use so many senses within that. So I'm really delighted that you have taken a few minutes out of your day, more than a few minutes, to spend some time with us so we could get to know you and be inspired by you, along with being able to just share your journey. And I really do thank you so much.
I thank you, Rebecca. This has been fun, and I've loved talking with you.
Likewise, I got to have you back. As soon as you're releasing anything, we're going to send it out because we definitely want to make sure that the audience can follow everything you're doing. Absolute great example. I would also like them to get connected with your acting classes.
Oh yeah, DM me on any of my social media and just let me know your name and your phone number or whatever, and I'll give you my contact information. So just DM me and I will get right back to you.
I love it. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy holidays, everybody. And Rebecca, have a wonderful holiday.
Yes, happy holidays to you too. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I want to thank all of you for tuning in to another episode of Rebecca Sounds Reveille. This has been so much fun because there is so much that is really going to make a difference in your life and the journey that you have. Just hearing what Susan has said today and then following everything that she's got going, I'm going to tell you what, I want to see which one of you grabs a copy of her book first, because we may have a little contest going for that. So get ready. Same thing with the release on her album. I want to see it in the comments, and I want to hear everything about it so we can get the message out there. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. Make sure that you use that little when you are promoting on social media so that your friends, family, everybody that you know on social media is also going to get connected with Susan, and everybody that you don't know. Thanks.